everyone, and welcome to MeowMix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven.
My name is Jerry. Ian Thomas, freshly off that nice signed contract that was wayly overpaid, faces 5 misdemeanors for trying to evade police on his dirt bike. This actually occurred before the signing. I believe it happened in July.
Yeah, it was last year.
Were
the Panthers aware of these pending charges before they signed him? I don't think anyone asked Fitterer about that today.
No.
But what are you doing?
Come on, man.
What are you doing?
Your dirt bike didn't have a license plate. You're probably driving in somewhere you shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. Just get pulled. Just talk to the cop, apologize, take your ticket, and move on.
Yeah,
running is not the way to go on that, especially someone in your type of position.
I understand they're still people.
Yeah, no,
a lot of these guys they've been coddled their whole lives. They've always been the best. They oftentimes don't think the rules apply to them, or that if they do get in trouble, they'll just get off because of who they are. Well, you're Ian Thomas. You're not Aaron Rodgers. You're not Tom Brady. You're going to get a ticket. You're going to get charged.
But just running is just a stupid thing.
It's stupid for anybody. Yeah.
He's not 16 years old. I think at his age, he's been in the league for 3-4 years, so he's got to be like 23, 24 at least.
He's 25, I think.
Okay, so at that point, I knew better than to run over a stupid ticket.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Not to say that I didn't do that when I was that age, but at least I was in a car.
Oh, see, no, not me. I guess I was too fearful of getting in trouble, I guess.
Yeah.
The
worst part was when I did it in a car, and then my car broke down as soon as I took a curve, and I had to pull over anyway because my car had broken down. And then I see the policeman in his Jeep Cherokee taking the curve on 2 wheels coming after me. And then another policeman comes up, and then I have to sit there for 30 minutes while they discuss what's going on. So my car betrayed me. But, so I only did it once.
I guess.
Did it once.
So what you're saying is make sure your vehicle's in top shape before running?
Always, maintenance on the vehicle. Very important. Very important. Speaking of Ian Thomas, Scott Fitterer, GM, who signed Ian Thomas to that luxurious deal, spoke at the Combine. Combine's starting up this weekend, and he had his media availability today. Matt Rule did not have media availability to the general pool of reporters. I think he did speak to some Charlotte reporters, but Fitterer spoke, and he said some interesting things, and specifically Ian Thomas related. He talked a little bit about that deal. He said that they felt Ian Thomas was somewhere right in the middle of starting tight ends, which is where he's being paid, which I disagree with. The fact that he is in the middle of starting tight ends, I think he's on the low end. Go ahead.
Yeah. Why would you jump out and pay him that, though? You're not just trying to say, hey, you take care of your guys when they produce. He's not producing.
Right.
And
good.
I was going to say, that's what I don't get about that. If you really think he's middle of the pack, let him test free agency, because he probably would have gotten less money, and you could probably bring it back less. I just didn't understand jumping and doing it. I know we've talked about that before, but
I was just going to say, go check out our last podcast episode where we talked in depth about Ian Thomas and generally the thought process behind that signing, or at least our thought process behind that signing. But he did speak a little bit about Ian Thomas. He said that. He also said that they believe that he can be better than 16th best tight end, or however they view him. They clocked him at 20 miles an hour on a GPS while he was running, which great, congratulations. They, I think, overrate his blocking ability, but he again talked about how good of a blocker he is. So they're they're very happy with the signing.
Yeah, and he
As
also
obvious,
talked
they signed
about
him.
Ben McAdoo's use of the tight end a
Hmm.
lot. And, we mentioned that on the podcast. That's great, but we haven't seen the production for that. That's why
Yeah.
it's so confusing.
They're
But
betting that with Ben McAdoo, with more opportunity, that Ian Thomas will produce. Remains to be seen. I don't believe it's going to happen. I hope it does happen, obviously, because that would be good for the Panthers. But we'll see.
yeah.
That's their thought process. They think he's going to produce.
So my best quote from his interview at the combine is when they talk about Brady Christensen.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of what role they see him as, what everything. This is a quote talking to Coach Campen, our new O line coach. He said, "Wow, I wish this guy would have played more. I wish I would have seen more of him at left tackle." Now, that is the quote. You know, I could play back so many podcasts of us during the season saying, why aren't we playing him at left tackle? We need to see
Mm-hmm.
more of this guy, especially when the season was lost and, we were in the crap,
Yeah.
Why? So who was pulling those strings? Was Matt Rule out there like saying no Brady Christian? Was it Joe Brady? Like, why is Matt Rule not pulling these strings? If another offensive line coach comes in and says, "Oh, he looks good. I wish I would have seen more of him." In your crappy year that you did nothing, you got the 6th pick with. What?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's obviously Matt Rule is the one that makes those personnel decisions on game day. I think. If not, he certainly has the final call. But yeah, I like that Campen said this. It makes me like him even more, and I already
Yeah,
liked him quite a bit. But yeah, like you said, that's what all Panthers fans were kind of asking is, we spent a third round pick on this guy. Why is he not out there at least getting an opportunity when obviously your other options are so bad?
yeah, and he
Just
looked
give him the
decent,
shot.
and he
And he
looked
looked
better.
exactly. And Fitterer mentioned that. Fitterer said, every time that he was out there playing left tackle, he looked pretty good. And honestly, for a rookie, that's especially a third round rookie, that's all you can ask for, really, is to look pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
and to show promise. So it does make me wonder, because Fitterer also said that if they end up finding a left tackle in the draft or free agency, that they could put Brady at guard. Well, Brady did not look good at guard. He looked bad at guard. I think Brady is a left tackle in the NFL. Whether that's a starting left tackle or a rotational guy, that remains to be seen. But I don't think he's a guard. He did not play well at
Yeah.
either guard position when he was put out there. So again, he could grow, he could get better at it, but he's naturally gifted, naturally talented at that left tackle position. I don't understand why they wouldn't play him there.
No, I wouldn't either. It blows my mind. A lot of these front office moves, these acquisitions,
Mm-hmm.
and just have confused me the past few years. Another cool thing or not cool thing he said on WFNZ. He didn't say it in the combine interview, but he did
Mm-hmm.
another interview with WFNZ. He mentioned that they were talking about the salary cap. He said, "Stay tuned in the next week or two. You're going to see a lot of moves that free up cap space." Um, he didn't. So that's gonna. He mentioned restructuring, but that also
Mm-hmm.
could be some cuts.
Yeah.
So that'll be very interesting for us to kind of keep track of. Just coming
Yeah,
into
I would be
next week.
surprised if that wasn't the case. I mean, that's right around now is the time when that happens, and you have to free up space before free agency starts,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't get to be free agency players. So,
Less
yeah,
not
that's
less than 2 weeks away.
yeah, yep.
So
Um, so yeah, he also mentioned, that he recognized that fans were getting impatient with the current regime not winning. And it sounded to me like he was basically saying it's win now for the coaching staff and potentially the front office as well. So I would expect them to be making moves with a win now mentality. Don't know how much I love that, because that often mortgages the future of your team, especially if a head coach or GM thinks that if they don't win, they're not going to be here anyway.
Nope.
So who cares if you have picks next year? Who cares if your cap space is held next year? If you're not there, then you don't have to worry about it. And if you win, then you'll figure it out at some point.
I personally hope Tepper says, no, you're not allowed to trade away next year's picks. It says, you traded all these away this year. You got to live with what you've already done. Maybe a 6th round pick. Okay, I get that. But,
sure.
I hope he does lay down the law. He also mentioned a lot about the quarterbacks, how they're pretty much done with their quarterback in the draft, the college quarterbacks. He's pretty much done with them. That he's going to start evaluating them. Yeah. He's going to start focusing in on some free agents and trade. Yeah. So we'll see.
It did sound like that they were entirely open to bringing in more competition at the QB position, which thank God they really should be.
That's obvious. I feel like that's a no-brainer. It also seems like he was not enthralled with the college guys to be at 6 pick, which we all kind of think that anyways, but nice little nugget of information. He also brought up Terrace Marshall and Shi Smith need to step up next year. Mm-hmm. So
it sounds to me like Shi Smith needs to be on special teams in order to keep a job on the team. Special teams gunner or something like that. That sort of sounded like what he was saying, but it also seems like he could get some run at wide receiver as well, like that 4th wide receiver spot. So hopefully that is the case. I like Shi Smith. I think I wish I would have seen more of him last year as well.
Yeah, it's weird that this team, with the situation that they had towards the end of the season, we didn't see these younger guys. We just did not, and I don't understand why. But again, any last thoughts or last things that of note from his interviews today?
He mentioned a little bit about Stephon Gilmore and Dante Jackson. Didn't really go into too much detail on them, but they were asked, if basically they're looking at everything essentially. So no real information there, but Stephon Gilmore and his wife, who is also very vocal on Twitter, seemed like they were indicating today that Stephon might be heading out of town.
And that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, there were some cryptic tweets that made you lean in that direction. So,
and another person who's probably gone is Hassan Reddick. He said, we're going to let him venture out and test free agency. We feel it's the right thing to do since he's had back-to-back double sack seasons. Why didn't you let Ian Thomas? Because of his great blocking.
It's only the right thing to do if you're trying to get him cheap.
And I don't think you're going to get him cheap.
No, you're not. That's the only reason to do that is you don't want to pony up, and you're going to let him go out there and look and see what the offers are, and then if the offers aren't what Hassan Reddick hoped he was going to get, then maybe you get him cheap. But it sounds like Hassan Reddick and Stephon Gilmore, they both want to be here. Mm-hmm. But they can't afford both of them, I don't think.
No, you can't. And especially now, you're down to about $10 million right now. Even with restructuring and cutting players, they're going to free up $20 million. So you're looking at $30 million. And if you trade for a quarterback, i.e., a Garoppolo or something, he's still that's $20 million. That's
going to cut into most of that.
Yeah. So you can't really do much.
You got to save 10 or so for draft picks, and
that's it. And then somehow you're going to have to shuffle out an offensive line out there. So
it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I'm not going to get too caught up in the salary cap thing. We've seen the Saints every year pull rabbits out of their hats, with the salary cap. They keep kicking it down the road. The Panthers can do the same thing. One day it'll come back to bite us, but if they really want to sign a player, I think they can make it work. That being said, signing Reddick and Gilmore would significantly hamstring them to go after a free agent quarterback, if that's what they decide to do. So I think if you're going to go draft quarterback, then that opens up your options a little bit. Or you just ignore quarterback, honestly, and you wait a little later down the road. You look at cuts, you look at trades, potentially before the season starts.
Yeah. Another thing he mentioned about those, he was mentioning, signing some of the players like DJ Moore and Brian Burns, and they can push the money back. And both of those guys definitely need to be re-signed.
Sure.
So I would be happy to see them wrap them up now before they get pricier and pricier.
Particularly Burns, I think.
I do too.
Would like to see him secured for the future.
All right.
Any other thoughts there about Scott Fitterer or any other news?
The only thing I thought was weird is that all the other coaches, except for I think 3 or 4 of them, were open to the public except Matt Rule.
The other coaches were like, coaches, like really secure. Like I think Bill Belichick and
he doesn't ever want to do that.
Yeah, there's a couple that were. Matt Rule was the odd man out when you looked at the coaching, the coaches that weren't going to speak. So I did find that interesting as well.
Is Tepper trying to really kind of be quiet this offseason? I
think Tepper's hands off. I think he is hands off right now. I think he has washed his hands of this team. And if the Panthers do well this year, great. And if not, that's when he steps back in. But honestly, I think he's hands off. I don't think he's doing much right now with them. I think he's focused on FC.
I just thought that was really kind of odd. Really kind of odd that Matt Rule was too good to do the interviews that the other coaches were doing.
Oh, it's not that he's too good for it. He just knows what the questions are going to be.
Yeah.
He knows what the questions are going to be. He doesn't want to talk. Yep. He's going to be asked about his job. He's going to be asked about Cam Newton, and he doesn't want to talk about either. And that's just the truth. He's scared.